everybody, welcome back to the channel. We're going to start a new series in this video on Firebase authentication. This is going to be a little similar to the series I did on the provider package, where each video looked at a different provider within that package. Each one of these videos will take up a different aspect of Firebase authentication. So this one will just deal with basic email password authentication. We'll hook up the Firebase project and we'll leave it at that. And if you want to continue with the series, we're going to look at some other more advanced concepts, such as verifying the email, setting up a good state management system, and architecting a good pattern for authentication. We may also hook in some third-party providers such as Facebook or Google, just to bring those in as well. So that's what we got on tap for today. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, so let's go ahead and get things started with Flutter create, and I'll just call it login app, but you can put whatever you want. And once that's done, I will cd into it, and I'll open up Visual Studio Code. All right, at this time, I'll switch over to the Firebase console, so console.firebase.google.com, and if you don't yet have a project, go ahead and create one. I have one here called Email Login, and so I'm going to go into Authentication. And I'm just going to make sure that email password authentication is enabled. And if it is not, I'm going to go ahead and check enable there at this time. Click on the project overview, bring it back out here. We need to do our typical Firebase setup. And so let's start with Android. So I'm going to go into the Android folder of my project. I'm going into app, I'm going into SRC, I'm going into main, and I'm diving into this Android manifest.xml, which is going to have my package name. And we'll grab that, put that there. I'm going to skip these next two steps because we don't need them right now. So let's register the app. And I'm going to download my Google Services JSON. And once that is done, drag it over to Android app. So it should sit down here underneath your build.gradle. All right, I'm going to go to the docs here. At this point, we can skip out of the Android, and I'm going to click Go to Docs. And here I've got this fly down for use Firebase with a framework, and Flutter is my option. And there are chips here, so I'm going to select Android. And we already created our app, so we can skip over that. Coming down to step 3, add a Firebase configuration file. And so we need to do some modification to our root level, build.gradle, so that's right here. Actually, nope, it's out here, highest level, so it should start with this build script out here. And I already have Google in the repositories. Google's in down here in the all projects. So really all I need to do is this copy of this in the dependencies and take this out and put it below the Kotlin plugin. And then in the app level, which is right here next to our Google Services JSON, we want to apply this plugin. So we can copy this and also put it below the Kotlin apply plugin. You're also going to want to bump this minimum SDK version, not in the docs, but believe me, you'll want to do that. It'll save you some pain when dealing with the Firebase plugins. And then our last step is to add our Flutter Fire plugins, and we're going to do that for iOS as well, same steps. So why don't we skip tracks over here to iOS. And we want to first create our Firebase project and register our app. So let's skip back here to our Firebase console. We now have our Android app. Let's add an app, and let's add iOS. All right, and for this, I'm going to open it up in Xcode. So I am going to navigate to where my folder is, and I do know where it is. Into the iOS folder and looking for this runner.xcode.project. So if you don't have a Mac, you won't be able to do this step or set it up for iOS. You'll just need to skip this. But if you do have a Mac, then once this runs, you can click on Runner and be on your General tab, and you will see your bundle identifier right there. So go ahead and copy that and paste it in here. Skip these remaining fields, click Register App, and download the Google Services info.plist. And then take that from your folder download location, drag it over here to inside Runner, click Finish, and we are all set with Xcode at this point. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it. So let's hop over to pub.dev and get our plugins to complete our Firebase setup. And the one that we need for all Firebase setup is Firebase Core. So let's locate that. Go to the Installing tab, grab this right here, copy it, and we'll put it in our pubspec.yaml file right here in our dependencies under Cupertino icons. And since we're doing authentication, of course, we're going to need Firebase Auth. So let's search that. Also copy that out of the dependencies and put it right here in the file. All right, and with that, we are mostly set up with Firebase. This used to be enough. There is an extra step if you're using Firebase Core 0.50 or above, and that is to actually initialize the Firebase project in your app. And so you want to do that. I find the best place to do that is in main.dart. There are a couple places to do it. So I'm going to just shrink up this Android, and I'm going to visit lib, and I'm going to go to main.dart. And really what I want to do in here is clean this completely out. So I'm going to take everything except void main, run app, my main, and delete everything below that. So the only thing that should be remaining is this main void where you run your application. And I'm going to create a new app inside the lib folder. So I'm going to create a folder inside lib that is my source folder. So it will be src. And inside src, I'm going to create a new file called app.dart. This is an architecture I think is nice and clean, and I think it's even more necessary and clean when with this new initiation of Firebase required. So this will be a stateless app, and we're just going to call it app. Make sure we import our stateless widget right there. And we're not going to return a container like the code generator produces. We want to return a material app. And we'll give it a title. We'll call it login app. We will give it a theme. So that is a, let's see, theme data. And we'll provide an accent color, which will do colors.orange, and a primary swatch, which will be colors.blue. Why not? And I want to give this a home page as well, but we're going to need a page to direct to. So inside our src, let's create a screens folder and create the screens that we need, at least shell those out so we have something to point to. So this will be the screens folder. And inside here, I'm going to do two files. So I'm going to do a login.dart and a home.dart. And so inside home, we're just going to do a stateless widget. We'll call it home screen. And make sure we get material imported. And then for login, I'm actually going to make this a stateful widget. And this will be login screen. Get our import right there. And that's good enough for now, because really what I want to be able to do is come back to this app.dart and set a home screen, which is going to be login screen. So you'll come in, you'll go to the login screen, and then from there you may get to the home page depending on the results. All right, so then here in main we've got my app, so let's replace that with app and make sure we import that. If you get this error here in test, you may just want to go in and fix that. It actually is not a showstopper, but you can change that to app and import it, and that gets rid of that error. You can get rid of this old import if you want as well. All right, so then just to initialize our Firebase project, in main, when we fire this up, we want widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized. We want to make sure that main is an async function, because after we ensure initialization, we want to await the result of Firebase dot initialize app. And with that, we should be all set to start the emulator. All right, so there we go. Our app is black. That is to be expected. We're being directed to the login screen, and if you see on the login screen, the code generated for us is just an empty container. So let's add something a little bit more exciting than that. Let's take the container out, and let's do a scaffold. We can do an app bar, which will be really minimal. We'll just put a title in there with a text that says login. We're not going to worry too much about styling here. The point is just to get the logic set up. All right, and then for our body, we can go ahead and do a column with children. And let's do a text field that will hold our email address, a text field that will hold our password. And then let's do two buttons at the bottom. So let's do a row with children. And we'll do a raise button in each one of them. One for sign in, one for sign up. And we'll just go ahead and do empty functions for now. There we go. All right, empty function there, but we will add a child, which will be a text widget that says sign in. And then we'll do another raised button with a child that is text sign up. And an on press, which for now is a blank function. Let's give it each one of them a color, and we'll do theme of context.accent color. And And same below. Copy. Paste. And just so it isn't completely hideous, let's move our children down here and let's do a main axis alignment and a main axis alignment dot space around, just so we're not looking at something completely hideous. I'm going to go ahead and wrap each one of those text fields in some padding, and I'm just going to use the default amount that VS Code generates for me. Good enough. All right, so visiting our text field. So this one's going to be our email. This one's going to be our password. Why don't we indicate that? So we can add a decoration on our text field, and we can do input decoration. We'll do a hint text, which is going to be email. That's pretty good on decoration. So down here we'll do another decoration, and that will be also input decoration, and it'll be a hint text, password. So in my text field widget on email, I do want to be able to have the @ sign on the keyboard, and so I'll just go ahead and do keyboard type is going to be text input type dot email address. And I don't need a special keyboard type on password, but I would like to obscure that text. So inside text field, obscure text equals true. I need to store variables here, so I've got a stateful widget, so I'm just going to go ahead and use set state. Not ideal for a big project, but good enough for this one. And as we progress through this this series, if you want to stick around, we'll refactor and put in a more robust state management system. But for now, I'm just going to do a string of underscore email and underscore password. We'll create those variables to use here. I might as well go ahead and create an instance of auth. So I'll call a variable auth, and we will set it equal to Firestore auth dot instance. That's because it should be Firebase auth, not Firestore auth. So then I just want to tie each one of these text fields to those variables so I can use those for creating a user account or signing in if I'm doing that. And so I can do that with the onChange method of text field. So we'll pass in a value, and what we'll do is set state. And we'll just go ahead and say on this one, for some reason I started with password, it's going to be equal to value. And I'm going to actually do value.trim because it is awfully easy to let a space creep in there on the emulator. And so I want to do the same thing up above. So I'm just going to copy it and paste it inside there. And instead of password, that's going to be email. Like that. So now every time we make a change, it should be recording that to our variables. And so when we type these, we'll be able to access those variables. And so really the last thing we need to do is come down here and fill in our sign in, sign up button. So on the sign in, we can do auth. Sign in with email and password, and just pass it email and underscore password. And then down here for sign up, we can do auth dot create user with email and password. So that would be email underscore password. And then after we do either one of those activities, sign in or create a user, we're going to want to jump to our home screen. So inside of the onPressed method, we can do navigator.ofContext, and we'll do push replacement. And so that will be a material page route with a builder and a context, and that context will fat arrow over to our page, which will be our home screen. I don't know that we've defined that yet. Oh, we have. It's just being difficult. Make sure we get that imported. We want to do the same thing on sign up, and that's horrible to type again. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it right down here below. So either one of these, it should first do the action. Of course, there's no error trapping here whatsoever. We're going to build that in later. But let's just say sign up, and we're taken to this blank screen, which makes sense because our home just has a blank container. But more importantly, let's take a look at our project. I'm going to go to Authentication, and I'm going to see that there is now a user created today with my email. So that worked. All right, so in place of this container on home.dart, let's just go ahead and build a scaffold. And in here, we'll just build a scaffold. We won't get too fancy. We'll just do a body, and we'll do a center widget with a child, and that will be a flat button, which will give us an opportunity to log out. So we'll give that flat button a child with a text that says log out. And on pressed, we'll call our auth logic and sign out. So up here inside the stateless widget, we'll need to do a variable called auth, which will be, make sure I get it right this time, Firebase auth instance. And then in our onPress will be auth.sign out. And then we want to navigate back to the login screen. So, I'm going to just copy this from login and put it here and send it back to the login screen instead of the home screen. All right, and with that in place, I should be able to click this, log out, and now that I have an account, I should be able to sign in, and I can. All right, so that's the basics of email sign in and sign up with Firebase Authentication. If you want to dive a little deeper, please continue with this series. In the next one, we're going to add a validate email option. So the user will get an auto-generated email from Firebase. They'll need to go to their email. They'll need to click on that, and then they'll be allowed to proceed past the verification screen in the app. So that'll be next time on this series. Hope you found this helpful. Please like and subscribe if you did. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you in a future video.